Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 8th Annual Walter Dean Myers Award. My name is Henna Khan, and I'm a board member at We Need Diverse Books and a local author. Thank you all for joining us this morning. First, I would like to acknowledge our incredible 2023 winners and honorees that we are celebrating. We can't wait to hear from you during our symposium and ceremony. I want to also share that unfortunately Jeff Edwards, the illustrator of Man-Made Monsters, won't be able to join us today due to a family emergency, but we wish him all the best. Second, I want to extend our deepest thanks to the 2023 Walter Award Judging Committee, who dedicated hours upon hours of their time to read hundreds of books and select this year's winners and honorees. We also want to express our gratitude to the teams at BookBub and NetGalley who have sponsored the Walter Awards and who are with us today. Thank you for your invaluable support. Third, we'd love to welcome all the students in the audience who represent 6 local middle and high schools. Yes. We are so glad you're here. The books that we are honoring today were written with readers like you in mind, so please feel free to ask questions to the authors during the Q&A portion of the symposium. We'd all love to hear from you. Now I'm honored to introduce you to our MC for the 2023 Walter Awards, the incredible Jacqueline Woodson. Jacqueline is an American writer of books for children, teens, and adults. Remarking on her childhood, Jacqueline shared, I used to say I'd be a teacher or a lawyer or a hairdresser when I grew up. But even as I said these things, I knew what made me happiest was writing. And she's made so many of us happy as a result. Jacqueline's books include the memoir Brown Girl Dreaming, which won the National Book Award, and the Newbery honor-winning titles After Tupac and Dee Foster, Feathers and Showway, among many others. She served as the Young People's Poet Laureate from 2015 to 2017, and she was named the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature for 2018 to 19. Jacqueline also emceed our 2018 Walter Awards, and we are thrilled to have her back. Please join me in welcoming Jacqueline to the podium.
Hello. Thank you, Henna, for that introduction. I'm so happy to be here to MC this morning's awards and symposium, and to celebrate my friend Walter with the Walter Award winners. I think there are a number of people here who actually knew Walter, and I'm just so glad this ceremony exists. I'm so glad these awards exist to honor him. And we're here today to celebrate the winners and the honorees and to honor the life of Walter Dean Myers. Myers was a prolific and award-winning author, and he was also a valiant champion of diverse children's literature. Since his death in 2014, We Need Diverse Books has strived to carry on his legacy, from mentoring marginalized creators to supporting diverse publishing interns to donating over 100,000 books to students nationwide. It's so wild to be old to remember Walter, to remember when there wasn't a We Need Diverse Books, to remember when there wasn't people championing, you know what I'm trying to say, that word, children's literature, especially children's literature featuring people from the global majority, and queer and trans people. So I just want to shout out some of the folks in the room. Deborah Taylor's here, who's one of the early champions of children's literature. I was just talking to Ellen O, who is one of the founders of We Need Diverse Books. It has literally changed the narrative of diverse books. And of course, our current National Ambassador for Children's Literature is in the room, Meg Medina. So, and just many other glorious people in this room, in this space that we're all sitting in, who have done work to change the world and change the narrative. I'm talking to the young people too, so thank you all for being here. But the work that we're doing is currently under attack. Our country is experiencing a rash of book bans and censorships, which more often than not target diverse books and target people of color, so authors of color. According to statistics gathered by PEN America, 41% of the books banned in the US feature protagonists of color, and 31% include LGBTQ plus topics or characters. For example, we know that Brown Girl Dreaming is on the banned book list, as is the story of Ruby Bridges. That's why our theme this year is Books Save Lives, because we believe in the power of diverse books. A diverse book can teach empathy. It can help us feel seen. It can even, yes, save lives. And we will continue championing, this word is in here a lot, these stories and fighting back against the bans until everyone here can find themselves in the pages of a book. Our 2023 Walter Honorees will now explore the theme Book Saves Lives more in depth, along with discussing topics about writing and publishing. I'd like to give a quick introduction to our honorees and our moderator before inviting them onto the stage. And I just want to let y'all know that nothing you can ask is wrong, so don't be shy when it comes to asking your questions. This is your moment to actually engage with authors, and ask those deep and meaningful questions that are about writing, about all things pertaining to creating. So, Sonora Reyes is a queer, second-generation Mexican-American and is the author of Walter Honor book, The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. And again, I have to say, if you have not read these books, please do, because they are all phenomenal. Sonora started writing at 8 years old, and her first book happened to be a self-insert Batman retelling. Saba Tahir is the author of All My Rage, a Walter Honor book, and the winner of the National Book Award. Saba is a former newspaper editor who grew up in California's Mojave Desert at her family's 18-room motel. E.B. Savoy, wait, where's Saba? Oh, there you are, right there. E.B. Savoy has written numerous books for young readers, including this year's Walter Honor book, Star Child, a biographical constellation of Octavia Estelle Butler, as well as 2021 Walter Award winner, Punching the Air. In a fun coincidence, E.B. and Octavia Butler actually share a birthday, which is amazing, which gives me a lot of information, E.B. And E.B.'s fabulous daughters are here in the audience. I've known E.B. and her young people for a long, long time, so it's just amazing to get old and watch people grow up. And unfortunately, our last honoree, Christina Saptuvat, and I'm sorry, Christina, if I pronounced that wrong, even though I was given the pronunciation, but let's go back to championing, and you'll understand why. Wasn't able to make it here, but she is with us in spirit. And now I'd like to introduce our symposium moderator, Ellen O. Ellen is the CEO and founding member of WNDB, and she's also an award-winning author. Her books include the Spirit Hunters trilogy, and Finding Junie Kim, and she's the editor of the brand new anthology, You Are Here, Connecting Flights. Ellen used to be a lawyer and an adjunct college instructor before realizing that it was all very boring and that she enjoyed writing books much more. Let's welcome Ellen, Sonora, Saba, and E.B. to the stage.
The mic. That is very scary to take off. All right, hold on. I have it now. I could kill somebody with this thing. I did not say that. Hello. It is so wonderful to see you all. I'm going to take my mask. Oh, yes. It was the mask. Now you can hear me. All right. So I just wanted to do a little shout out that Christina was not here for only one good reason, which is that she is flying to Thailand. Like her character in my newest book, You Are Here, her character also flies to Thailand. And did you see what I did there? I just did a plug for my new book. Thank you. All right, we're going to get right into it because I think we started a little bit late, and I don't want to take any time away. Hello? I did do something. Technology hates me. All right, we're going to start with the theme of our, our event, which is Book Saves Lives. And I think we all agree, yes? All right, tell us, each of you, if there is a book that saved your life or the first time you saw yourself reflected in a book. And I know this is a question that everybody gets, but I think we've got new people here who might not have heard your answers. So, starting with you, Soba.
Hello, thank you guys for coming. It's so nice to see you. I'm going to share about two books today. One I'm going to talk about very briefly, and one gets a little bit more attention. The book that saved my life was Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson, and she's amazing. The book is amazing. But I'm going to talk about the book that I saw myself in, which was called 7 Daughters and 7 Sons. It was by two women named Barbara Cohen and Bahija Lovejoy. It was the first time I saw Muslim characters in a book. I was in 4th grade. And I checked out the book so much that at the end of the year, I asked my librarian if I could buy the book. And she said, no, but you can lose the book. I did not. I was too afraid of breaking a rule, but I don't know if that karma came around again, but many, many years later, Bahija Lovejoy's great-granddaughter sent me a signed copy of the book when she found out how much I loved it. It was really cool. I still have it in my house. So seeing the phrase "Assalamu alaikum" in this book, seeing a girl who dressed as a boy because she was trying to save her family, seeing how much she loved her family, how much she loved her siblings, that was something that I related to, and I'd never seen it up until that point. And it gave me a lot of hope. It made me seek out other books like that, and when I found them, every time it felt like finding a secret. And I was finally in on the secret, and that was something that I had not experienced before. So those were the two books that saved my life. Oh, do they have one? My bad. Just kidding.
Can everybody hear me? Oh, good. Hello, everyone. So, like Saba, the book that saved my life, and I don't want to say saved my life. I want to say kind of gave me a raison d'être, like a reason for being and show me my purpose in life, which is to write and tell stories. That book is called Breath, Eyes, Memory by Edwidge Danticat. After growing up in New York City, after hearing so many negative portrayals about Haiti in the 80s and 90s, and still to this day, I grew up knowing that the media was telling lies about the country where I was born in. And when I saw Breath, Eyes, Memory as an Oprah Book Club selection in 1998, it was validating because within the first few lines of that book is my mother's hometown of Damarie in rural Haiti. And I always felt as if Haiti was just terribly portrayed in the media, and grew up being sometimes ashamed of being Haitian. If anybody knows, from way back when, some diseases like HIV/AIDS being attributed to Haitians, Haitians being always, the idea that we are corrupt, the corrupt governments, that we cannot govern ourselves. Even Vodou, our spiritual systems have been bastardized in the media. But to see Edwidge Danticat celebrated on a national platform as the Oprah Winfrey Show let me know that my story, my personal story, as niche as it may seem, can be celebrated. That Haiti is important to the people who want to know the truth. And it was the first time I read the truth about the country where I was born. And my mother connected to that book. I connected to that book, and I connected to other Haitians who valued Edwidge Danticat's presence in the literary landscape. And in that moment of seeing her sitting next to Oprah, I said, I want to do that. My mother didn't believe me. She didn't want to do that. She didn't want me to do that, of course, as with all immigrant mothers. But in that moment, I decided I want to be a writer. I can tell stories, and people will find it valuable in the same way that they saw value in Breath Eye's memory.
I love that. Can you all hear me? Hello? Okay. Oh no. Okay, so, oh, that's really loud. So I think that the book that saved my life, and it like literally saved my life, I was like in a mental hospital at the time. Oh, there we go. So I was in a mental hospital at the time that I read it. It's called Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee. It's just not, it doesn't have anything to do with like oppression or like anything like that. It centers like a trans boy main character. And oh no. Just pull it off. I can do that. Hello? Okay, that's so much better. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, so Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee, I just really needed something lighthearted and something that just centered like the trans experience in a way that wasn't about like the oppression. There was no misgendering, there was no like trauma. Oh, should we? Oh, sorry. Hello? Just drop that one. Hello? No? Hello? I'm so sorry. Again, it's working? Okay, there we go. Okay, awesome. But yeah, so I think just like getting the opportunity to read something when I was in such a dark place, and I had, my mom had delivered me some books in the hospital and was like, and that like literally saved my life, because I was like, okay, like I wasn't getting what I needed there, and just being able to read something that was so full of joy and so full of like, it was just a rom-com, you know, that centered like a trans boy, which was something that I had never seen before, and I had never like gotten to experience like something so just unapologetically joyful and just funny and happy, and it didn't need to be about being trans. It was just, that was just part of the experience. And it was a time when that was like really hard for me, because, you know, being in the hospital, like you have to be in like the gendered rooms, you know, and they like, you know, every time I go to the hospital, like it's a lot of misgendering, and it's a lot of like just going back into the closet. So being able to read that book in that time was really, really healing for me. So, yeah.
My kid, sorry. My kid also said something like that to me. Like he came to me and he said, Mom, where are our happy ever afters? Why aren't we allowed to have stories where we're just happy? Why is it always lesson or tragedy? And so I love that you said that. We need all stories, right? All of them. And This goes, of course, right into my next question. The last few years have been marked by a dramatic increase in the number of book bans across the country. What do you want to say to everyone here, to our students, particularly marginalized and diverse students? What do you want to say, like give perspective or hope as we kind of strive to fight all of these bans together? Is there something a message you can give them?
Do either of you guys want to go first? I think that we have to look at how history works. When you are from a marginalized community and you get to know your own history, it is both very sad and very encouraging. It's sad because of course, everything that has happened to many marginalized communities, but it's encouraging because we don't give up. We keep fighting. It's just how we are. It's in the blood at this point. It's in our spirits. And I think the hope that I would offer is that all of us are going to keep writing, and we hope that the things that we write will continue to find their way out into the world, that they will find the people who need them. And that's not something that any author I know, no matter what they're writing, not a single one is like, I am giving up because this is too much. Every single one is like, you know what? More books, louder books, angrier books, happier books, more joyful books, just more of everything, because we absolutely refuse to be silenced. And if you're not ready to share your stories, or if you are not ready to have your voice heard yet, that's okay, because we will keep yelling until you're ready to join that shout.
Do I need mine? Oh, okay, I'm always a testing, right? Okay, mic check, all right. I always tend to think about dystopian futures being in this country when things like book bannings happen. If, for instance, we don't have books anymore, for whatever reason, we are not able to print books, printing press is gone, and I don't want to think that way, but as a writer, as a Butler fan, I imagine what if we can no longer print books. I really believe the power is that we will always be storytellers. Without our stories, there won't be books, but without books, we would still be telling stories. And that's where I want us to take the power back. As someone who did not grow up with books in my community or in my home, because as an immigrant child, immigrant mother, English as a second language, it was just not part of our home culture. I also grew up in a book desert. Libraries were underfunded, but just because I grew up without books does not mean I grew up without stories. And as immigrant, I first generation, this is the power that we had. And as a Black person in the world, I knew that our gift of storytelling and the oral tradition was what was taken away from us. And when I write my books, I'm pulling from the oral tradition. And if books are taken away from me as an author, I will still lean on the oral tradition. And for young people out there, you are telling the stories already. You are, doing your TikToks, music is a form of storytelling, dance is a form of storytelling. But what books do is that they contain our stories. They are, they are a vessel for our stories. They exist in the world so that more people can hear and share our stories. So that's the sad part about the book banning, right? We want to acknowledge that. I also want to empower marginalized young people to know that there would be no American culture, American entertainment industry without the many ways that we tell stories.
Can you hear me? Okay, wonderful. It's hard to, I can't tell. Yeah, I'm getting emotional. Yeah, I think that what I would say to like all of you and like anyone who's like discouraged right now is that like I am also very discouraged, and I'm also very sad, and I'm like right there with you. And I can't say with all certainty that like, okay, this is gonna be okay and like everything's gonna be fine and we're gonna like come out on the other side and it's gonna be great. But what I can say is that I'm going to, like what Saba said, like I'm not going to stop. I'm gonna keep writing for vulnerable youth. And I don't think I'm ever gonna stop doing that. And I think that that is what's gonna be healing for me in this time, and hopefully that can also be healing for some other people too.
So, I want to say to the book banners, if you're out there, you're not watching, I know, but let's be honest. But for book banners, their message is fear and hate and prejudice and bias. That's where they're coming from. We are about love, baby. We are about positivity, and that's why we're going to win. Now we're going to talk, thank you. And now we're going to talk about books, because I feel like Ibby told us the plot for her next book, A Future Without Printing Presses. But let's start, Ibby. I'd love to hear how you met Octavia Butler first, and how that meeting came about and her books affecting your own writing.
Oh man, I stalked her. The year was 1999. You know, growing up in a certain time, a child of the 80s, sci-fi was on the TV, and I discovered Butler at the brink of like the first Matrix, right? And we were a bunch of nerdy kids of color in New York City who gravitate towards that otherworldly, you know, writing or movies, comic books. And actually it was a good friend of mine who just happened to be Walter Dean Myers' nephew who gave me my first Octavia Butler book, Parable of the Talents. I loved the world that she created in those series. I loved how her mind works. And I was that kind of young person who was always looking for a wise sage. And I loved listening to elders. So I sought her out. I called her. This was back then, and authors were accessible to us. Right now, she's the figure that she is, the icon. But back then, she was not a bestseller. Her works were very niche in the sci-fi community, and I could reach out to her easily, which is what I did. And she was at a small bookstore signing in Brooklyn, and I offered to give her a ride to her hotel, and the rest, as they say, is her story. Kind, gracious, open, warm, an older, somewhat awkward woman who was deeply wise. And I was in college looking for that deep worldly, I don't want to say worldly, I want to say galactical wisdom, because she seemed to be, her thinking seemed to be beyond the surface, beyond, you know, if we talked about racism, she would talk about where the aliens are going to take over when we destroy the planets. And it was that sort of mind-expanding conversations that we would have. And we have a picture in Star Child together where she was telling me about how humans are intrinsically hierarchical. And I'm in my early 20s just like, what? Wow, you know? So I admired her thinking so much that I sought her out. We worked together at a workshop. There were email exchanges on AOL. I lost those exchanges, but basically this is me as a fan. This was me as a fan. She has lots of fans out here, but back then, you know, she was just right there, accessible, and I loved how accessible and generous with her time that she was.
So you went from a fan to writing her story. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, you know, many years, this was about 8 years ago where it was a picture book first. And, you know, there are many biographical picture books out there, but I got some feedback that it was probably too abstract, and I think that's correct. And I decided to write science fiction poetry to kind of contextualize her life. And it was my editor, Andrew Carr, who helped me kind of frame those poems and format them and give them some sort of, you know, like beginning, middle, and end in the story, a narrative arc in the novel. And I'm so glad I took that risk because she was a risk taker. So I think young people, she wrote for adults, but I wrote about her young life because she was writing science fiction at the age of 10. She wrote about telepathic aliens and magical horses in 1957, when we don't usually see Black girls thinking that way during the civil rights era. And the last thing I say is that in Octavia Butler's work is where the civil rights movement and the space race and the Red Scare all converge. And I needed to document that for young people.
So fascinating, and it just so a loving tribute and so respectfully done. And I was going to ask about the picture book thing, changing it, so you answered it for me. Do you think that she had an impact on your own writing, and how would you describe that?
Yeah, absolutely. I really wanted to write science fiction, but I think that's so, like, I didn't feel smart enough, right? I'm still working on it. So my first pieces of writing that went out were science fiction. And I always thought that science fiction wasn't having a moment right now, but I think I've been proven wrong with some books. But yeah, I wanted to think the way she thought about the world, more so than write like her.
Very great. All right, so I'm going to move on to Sonora. Are you ready for me? I skipped, see? You weren't expecting me. I can see your book being one that a reader would point to and say, this is a book that saved my life, especially now. And the reason I say that is because going back to the beginning of We Need Diverse Books, one of the most poignant kind of like photograph, hashtag tweets that we saw was where a queer woman said that she would, if she had only had seen herself in the book, she would not have felt like that there wasn't a world for her, that she wouldn't have tried to attempt suicide. And that stayed with me for a very, very long time. And it comes back again now. Like right now it feels your book is so needed, especially because it's about love and happy endings for LGBTQ plus folks. What do you want to say to all those readers out there who have found your book and feel seen?
Gonna make me cry.
It's okay, you can cry.
I think I would say, oh my gosh. Like, okay, I want to be vulnerable, and I do that a lot with my writing, but also I try to like talk about, you know, what I'm going through like in my own life and everything, just to like, you know, destigmatize like mental health and everything like that. So I just want to say that like I've also been there where like I needed my life saved, and I feel like people who have told me that my book saved their life or anything like that, it meant so much to them, like I feel like that's saved my life. And so we're just like doing this cycle, saving each other, and I feel like that, I don't know, I like it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so like I said, I'll keep doing it, and I think that just knowing that it means something to someone, even if it's just one person, but I know that there's a lot of people that like can relate to like the stories. So, ooh, sorry, I'm a little flustered because.
No, I
yeah,
feel the same way, because like there's so many kids out there who school libraries are safe spaces for them, and having your books in those libraries means the world. And right now, that's what we're fighting, right? Yeah. So if they can find you, like in any way, and hear your story, and find Let's Be Honest Guide, it's just perfect. Like, and I'm grateful and thankful for you. And I will give you an easier question to answer too. Your chapter headings perfectly encapsulate your story's tone, right? It is just so great. What inspired you to include them?
So the chapter titles, for anyone who doesn't know, in the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School are like, kind of like the 10 Commandments. So can I curse? Is it okay to curse?
Yeah, whoa.
Okay. Okay, so I won't quote the first chapter title then. Yeah, you know. Yeah, so like the chapter titles are like, thou shalt have no other gods before capitalism, or like, honor thy liner and thy hoops, or like, stuff like that. So I actually, the first draft of this book that I queried with didn't actually have chapter titles. And one of the agents who offered representation for me wanted me to lean more into the guide aspect of the book. And I was like, ooh, chapter titles could be cute. And then I, from there, kind of came up with the idea of like, ooh, what if they look like the Ten Commandments? And then like slowly as you get through the book, it switches from the Ten Commandments to the poem, which is the Code of the Heart. In like Mexico, there's like this like Mayan Code of the Heart, which is like where the chapter titles go and towards the end, but it essentially means, I'll just say it in English, but it's, you are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. But it's, the poem's not in English, but yeah, that's the translation. And so I kind of liked the idea of going from these commandment style to the Code of the Heart, and just kind of switching from this like kind of, she's feeling like she's in this box of like very Catholic upbringing, very like, not that there's anything, it's okay to be Catholic, it's not, but she doesn't feel right in it in the beginning, and so she has to switch her code that she lives by. So yeah.
I'm actually surprised that you didn't write it at the start. Like, it
Yeah.
feels so fluid. Like,
Thank you.
you did it after. Oh.
Yeah, I did it after. I had so much fun going through like all the chapters and being like, ooh, okay, which commandment style should I use, or like what could go here? And I wrote a bunch of commandments that I ended up leaving out because like in editing, like some chapters got deleted or some got merged into one chapter that were two chapters. So there's more commandment style chapter titles that like are somewhere in my Google Docs, but
So which one is a funny one that you left out?
oh man, do I remember? Oh
I
my gosh,
put
I
them
think
on
I would
the
have to look it
spots.
up. Ooh, I would have to look it up.
Okay, we'll get back to you with that one
Yeah,
next
sorry.
time. All right, Saba, your turn. I've heard you talk about how you were working on All My Rage for a very long time, right? Something like 15 years? 15 years. And that it was inspired by the motel where you grew up. Now, can you tell us about how that original concept transformed over the years into this brilliant, beautiful book?
Thank you. I started writing All My Rage when I was in my early 20s. My parents had this motel where I grew up, and my father grew ill, and my parents had to sell it. And they sold it while I was away at college, so I didn't get a chance to go back and get sort of a sense of closure from this place that had been so formative in my life. So I started writing this book, and at the time, it wasn't called All My Rage, it was called Burn It Down. And so it was always angry. It was never like yay, happy, type of book. But and I started writing it, and I was really struggling with it because it was so heavily based off of this place I grew up, and I would complain to my mother about it. And one day she was probably just really sick of me whining about it constantly, and so she said, "Why don't you write something else? Why don't you write fantasy? You love fantasy." And I was like, "I can't write fantasy, Mom. No one would take me seriously," because I was 25, and that's the type of thing you think. And she said, "No one's going to take you seriously if you never finish a book," which is a very classic Asian mom burn. So I was like, she's not wrong. And then I ended up writing An Ember in the Ashes, but All My Rage was always on the back burner. I would always go in and I would work on it, and I would just throw in everything I was angry about. It was my anger book, and I was really angry. I'm still angry. I'm just an angry person. So I would throw in everything I was angry about. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I wouldn't do anything to you. Just the book banners. So So then over time, I started kind of seeing that there was a story within this Burn It Down book of anger. And in 2017, somebody who I cared about overdosed on fentanyl, and they passed away. And everything I saw around that situation, around the way the family treated that death, the worry that I had for the people who were left behind, one of whom actually survived their overdose and was with the person who died, all of it made me start thinking about how to incorporate sort of a story that was more of the moment. And so that's when I figured out that, hey, I had a thread of addiction in the book, but I had not really connected it to ideas of hope and family and legacy and trauma and generational trauma. And once I had made that connection, that's when I was like, I think I have a book and I think I need to actually tell this story. So that's how it evolved over the years.
So it's fiction, but it feels personal, right? And it feels very much like you gave a lot in the writing. How did you feel about the reaction that this book has garnered from everybody? It's just, people love it so much. It's a visceral reaction for a lot of people. I know. I cried so hard and it just was cursing you out because I was crying. It's beautiful, I love making people cry. That's my thing.
It's been really lovely. It's been very weird because, I didn't want to put the book into the world. It was this secret thing that I worked on by myself. I actually give credit to my husband. What he said to me as I was writing, because he kept saying, I think you need to actually make this a book. You need to put this in the world. This needs to be something people read. It's really important. It's really special. And then eventually I was kind of like, why? I don't understand why. And he said, you keep coming back to it like an animal, like gnawing at an old wound, and you can't be the only one. And I think that he was right. And so, seeing that reflected back at me, hearing the stories of people, whether it's in a letter they give me, whether it's in an email or a DM, whether they say it to me at a book signing, that has been very meaningful because I think, very kind of similar to what you were saying, Sonora, it's not just about, them saying to me, hey, thank you for this thing. It's every time they say that to me, I feel like my story and my existence and my struggle is validated to some degree, and that's very moving. So it's been really lovely.
First of all, thank you, Saba's husband. And last question for you is, you went from fantastical worlds to realistic contemporary. That's hard. How hard was it?
Oh my God, it was such a pain, because every time my characters would run into a problem, I wanted dragons or a battle scene or gin or something to I don't know, make it a little, I wanted magic. I was like, if I had magic, I could fix this problem right now. But I don't have magic, so now I have to help them figure it. So I actually think a big part of why the characters sort of go deeper and deeper into issues they can't fix is because I didn't have magic, and I was like, I don't know how to get them out of this. So that was very difficult. I also, but ultimately what I kind of told myself was, my Ember series is very fantastical. It has gin, it has magic, it has all this fun stuff. But it's also quite a dark series, and it focuses sort of on hope through difficult times. And that is my through line for all of my work. I got this really incredible question from a moderator who I was on tour with just yesterday. It was Randy Ribet. If you haven't read Patron Saints of Nothing, you should. It's amazing. But he said, every writer is working toward answering a question in their work. There's this theory that every writer is working toward that. What question are you working toward answering? And the question that I am trying to answer is, why do we treat each other this way? And I don't know if I will ever answer that question, but every book I write is about that. Why do we treat each other this way? And so it doesn't matter if I write contemporary, if I write fantasy, if I write children's books, if I write adult books. if I write poetry, if I write dumb Instagram posts. It really doesn't matter. I am always trying to answer that question, and that is the thing that allowed me to transition between these two very different styles of books.
That's such a great question. I'm going to steal that from Randy. Thank you, Randy. Yeah. So, for if I were to answer that question, I would say, why am I always hungry? And that always shows up in my book. Okay, we have 5 minutes, so I actually want to go to one quick publishing question, and I will start with Sonora. There are many aspiring writers in the audience today. What's one piece of advice you would give to the young writers in the auditorium and watching online?
Ooh. My elbow locked up. Yeah, so one piece of advice that I would give is to keep in mind that all the advice out there, a lot of it is like not going to fit you, and that's okay, especially if you're neurodivergent, especially if you're, you know, like not the, like, you know, cis straight white man that like it's written to be about. So, you know, like write every day, or like you have to do this, you have to do that, like in order to be a writer. So just know that like if something doesn't fit you, it's okay. If something doesn't work for you, if you try some advice and it doesn't work, that's okay. And just, you know, kind of, I've learned to just kind of like, I'll see a piece of advice and I'll test it out. And then if it works for me, then I'll keep it. And then I'll just like kind of collect them like that. And then I'll just like push other ones away. And that works really well for me. So just kind of don't be discouraged if the advice that says you are only a writer if you do this and you don't do that, you're still a writer. It's okay, I promise.
Perfect. Ibby?
You know, Octavia Butler wrote about empaths, like people who have a power of feeling what others feel. And that's one of the first things I connected with her, that I connected to her books. I really feel that some artists, some writers are really feeling people. And for so long, I tried to not be that feeling type of person. I cry easily. And for those of you who write and you think you are that kind of person, to lean into that, even as you get older. Cry at the world, feel what others are feeling, question your feelings, question other people's feelings. I think we need more heart people in the world. So it's something I'm leaning into again, because I think it makes my art and my writing that much more richer, and I think it will for you too.
That's lovely.
They gave such amazing advice that I'm going to just change tack a little bit. You have to get words on the page, right? Bribe yourself. I bribe myself with chocolate. I bribe myself liberally with chocolate. I'm like, if I finish this chapter, I get a section of this chocolate bar. If I finish, you know, like truly it is very, very effective. So if you, and you know, if food is not your thing, which I don't understand why it wouldn't be, but if it's not, I get it, then bribe yourself with something else. I get to, like, you know, listen to a song I love. I get 5 minutes of TikTok. You know 5 minutes is never 5 minutes on TikTok, though, so don't do that. But, you know, give yourself something, because the important thing when you're a writer is really to just get words on the page, get ideas, concept, even if it's garbage, even if it makes no sense. If you could see my first drafts, they are so terrible. It's actually embarrassing. There's so much in it that's like fight scene here, kissy scene here. Saba doesn't know what she's doing, but eventually she'll figure it out. And I go back and I read my old drafts and I'm like, wow, like really? You couldn't put in the effort to figure this out? And now I, like current Saba, has to figure it out? So get the words on the page, use bribery.
Oh, that's great. Now I'm hungry. Which actually that takes us to my next question. All right, rapid fire questions. You guys pick one. You can only choose one. Rice, noodles, or bread? Explain yourself. I will judge you.
Bread. Roti. It's none of those things. It's paratha. It's made by my mom. It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm Caribbean, rice and beans.
Rice.
Noodles.
Rice. Okay. Beverage of choice when writing?
Coffee, black, tiny bit of cream.
Water.
I like a caramel mocha.
Ooh, I'm a Diet Coke drinker. All right, plotter or pantser. Oh, plotter or pantser.
So when she says pantser, she does not mean pulling down your pants. I feel like we need to explain that as writers. A lot of people don't know that. She means like flying by the seat of your pants. Right. I am both. I plot, and then I throw out the plot and do something else. So I'm chaotic. I'm chaos, that's what I am.
I'm a pantser and have my editor figure it out.
I'm a plotter.
Me too.
I have to plot everything.
Me too.
Chapter by chapter.
I am like outline Excel spreadsheet. I'm kind of gross. Like, if I was like seeing my own process, I'd be like, ew. Okay, last question. Writing with music or background noise or absolute quiet?
If you've read All My Rage, you know the answer to this question. I have to have the music, it has to be loud, there has to be a good bass.
I can't do that.
Absolute quiet.
I'm so hyper-focused that it doesn't matter.
Actually, my favorite thing before pre-pandemic was like going to coffee shops, pretending I had earphones on, and just eavesdropping to everybody's conversations. I have heard the juiciest gossip about people. I have no idea who they are, but it's juicy, and it shows up in my books in some way. So anyway, okay, so it is time for questions. And I know you guys have lots of questions. You all have lots of questions for the wonderful panelists here. So come on down to the empty stand right here with no mic. 3? We can have 3 questions. I'm reading you right? We have 3. We can have 3 questions. Come on down. No prizes, just questions.
Hi. Okay, so for all of you, what motivated you all to start actually like writing? What got you into the process? What motivated you all to start writing, and what kind of got you into the process of it?
Fan fiction. I didn't think I was smart enough to write like in school or anything like that, so I didn't start writing until I did it for just purely fun. So fan fiction was what got me into it.
My imagination. I have a wild imagination, and I started writing in elementary school just to make sense of the worlds in my head.
I started writing because I didn't see myself anywhere, and I wanted to self-insert into all the fantasy that I read, because I was like, no, I'm the hero. So that's why I started writing.
Thank you.
Okay. My question is for all of you guys, but like, has you as like a kid at all affected like what you write or like how your characters are made? I guess I don't know if that makes sense.
I didn't quite get it. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So it's like, as you as a kid, did that like ever make it into any of your characters?
Oh, okay. So who we were as children, did that make it into our books? Yes, I was a coward as a child, and I wrote an entire series about a girl who's a coward.
Yeah, I put bits and pieces of who I was like in high school into like different characters. So like one character could be who I felt like I was on the inside, one character could be like who I acted like I was, one character is my mental health, all of that.
I write different kinds of books, and that just comes from being an immigrant from Haiti, watching sci-fi like The Twilight Zone, listening to hip hop, and just being curious about the world.
Can I take up? Hi. First, I want to say, Sabah, I read An Ember in the Ashes in 4 days. I loved it so much. Sorry, I can't talk right now. Right now, I know I'm like in 6th grade, but I just started working on something for actually somebody in my class's birthday. She's doing this right now, and so I'm trying to get the grade to work on it with me. And I wanted to know, like, what is your guys' like way of getting like more stuff into your books, like more detail and stuff, and not just writing like, she went to this thing, like what? How do you put so many details into your books and make them like good?
That's such a good question. I actually struggle with a lot of details. So like I have to think of like, okay, what is this person like smelling or seeing or hearing or feeling like in their heart or anything like that. I also go into a lot of like internal monologues. So something, because I have ADHD, so something reminds me
Oh
of
my God, I
something.
do too. That's so cool. Slide.
High five. Yeah, so something like, and my characters are like very like, they have a similar voice to me. So like, if I'm writing from their point of view and something reminds them of something else and they go on a tangent, like that's okay, you know? I think it's fine.
I think the 5 senses are I think the best way to get details. You know what the 5 senses are. And for me, it's poetry. I like using the 5 senses and using metaphors. So writing poetry helps with certain lyrical language in my writing.
I write iteratively, I can speak, I promise. So instead of trying to get detail in the first time I write something, I just add a little detail every time I edit. The first draft of Ember did not have any detail. It didn't have appearances, it didn't have description of where they were. It was very bare. It was like they're in a desert. I added all of that over the course of many drafts because I cannot put everything into one draft. I don't have the memory for it or like the brain capacity. So just give yourself the time to like add that in when it comes to you. The other thing I was gonna say is I also used to write stories for my friends' birthdays, so go you.
Thanks, you guys, so much.
My question for you is, when people are telling you what to do and who to be, and everything that's going on in your life, it's like, you're supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. Your books have risen above that and have stood for themselves rather than, oh, you can't make a character like this, you can't include diversity in your books. And you can see that in banned books, they're trying to repress that. But you guys have had your books risen above that. Number one, how does that feel? And how have you yourself found your way to rise above that?
Hello, is it working? Okay, yay. That is a fabulous question. It does feel really great. It also feels unsatisfying. I definitely feel like I'm not done yelling about the things I want to yell about. In terms of, I'm sorry, tell me the second part of your question again.
How did you yourself rise above that?
Okay, so I think that every creative person, every writer has to have this like tiny little part of them that thinks that what they are saying is worth saying. Even if the only person who knows about that like little secret part of you is you, right? I found that by realizing, like by observing what was happening around me and realizing that the observations I had, the things that I were thinking, I was not seeing reflected anywhere. And so I started to think, hey, maybe what I have to say is worth saying, and I just practiced. So I started with like really tiny little stories in like my high school like magazine, which by the way I was the editor of, so I was like, I will publish this one, it's great. But you know, I started in small ways, and then slowly as time went on, I kept thinking like, I think what I have to say is worth saying. I think I need to say it. So even if you're the only person who thinks that, that is enough. That is enough. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enough, but it is.
Okay. You know, like Sabah, I am angry too. It doesn't look like it, you know, but I get very angry, and I have a strong sense of what's unfair in the world, and there's a lot that is unfair. And my writing, my need to right the wrongs is what drives me every day. And it could be a picture book, it could be a biography. It's my way of saying, I am here, we are here, and we deserve to be in the pages of books. And that's what keeps me going. And then I'm married to a high school teacher, and every day there is something there's something that happens in his schools where he feels defeated, but he has to get up every day and go to work. So now I am so glad that writing is my job, and I have to do it. There's no going back. Thank you.
I love this question so much. To answer the first part, it feels really, really good. And then also, so the way that I kind of went about kind of rising above the boxes that everyone tries to put me in is that I kind of had to accept that it's okay not to have myself figured out completely, and to know that it's only up to me to label myself or put myself in whatever box I want to be in. And then if I want to change that, I can change it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think just being able to define myself on my own terms empowered me to be able to write the books that I write. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, you guys are all awesome. Thank you.
She said you guys are all awesome. Thank you. All right, well, thank you so much. I just want to say to the student that asked about the detail question, Excel spreadsheet. I'm pushing that. All right, so I am thanking everybody here for coming. It's in my notes. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed this panel as much as we enjoyed talking to you all.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm still mic'd. Come get me, stop.
I just want to thank the students for those great questions, and thank you to the panel for such amazing answers. And so now we're moving into the awards part of this ceremony, the 2023 Walter Dean Myers Awards. Today marks the 8th year of the Walter Awards, and we've come a long way since the very first ceremony in 2016. Back then, We Need Diverse Books was still in its infancy. The organization had recently received its 501c3 status as an official nonprofit, and it was still run by a team of volunteers. But We Need Diverse Books had big dreams, like affecting change across the entire bookmaking industry, from supporting the diverse creators who make the books, to publishing professionals who acquire them, to the readers like you who consume them. To make that dream a reality, We Need Diverse Books started launching various programs to diversify the publishing industry from the ground up. These programs included the Walter Awards, the internship grants, and the mentorship initiative, which paired aspiring creators with published authors and illustrators. Since 2016, We Need Diverse Books has mentored over 100 writers and illustrators who work with their assigned mentor over the course of a year to hone their craft and learn about publishing. Our past mentees include Angeline Bully, the author of Firekeeper's Daughter, which won last year's Walter Award in the teen category. And our mentees also include a local writer named Amina Lukman Dawson. In 2019, I have to tell you, I wrote Amina fan mail. When was it? 3 weeks ago? and that was after talking. Jason Reynolds and Kwame Alexander and I were all texting, yo, you see Amina won that award? And did you write her? No, did you write her? Oh man, I gotta get and write her. So we're so proud of you. In 2019, Amina was paired with celebrated author Kathy Appelt. And in 2022, her debut novel, Free Water, was published by Little Brown Books for young readers. And recently, Free Water received the Newbery Medal. and the Coretta Scott King Author Award. We are so excited to have Amina here with us today. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Forgive me, this makes me also very emotional to hear Jacqueline introduce me. The year that she last emceed this event, I was sitting in the audience just like you. I had in my hand a binder with my manuscript on it. And it's one of those times, you know, when you clutch your most favorite thing. And I said a prayer for that manuscript, and clearly it was heard. I am so pleased to be here. I am blessed, right? I owe a debt of gratitude to WNDB. Being in their mentorship program changed my life, and no doubt about it. I'm honored to be in the presence of the Walter Award winners. They are magnificent artists, and I want to send a special thanks to Miss Jacqueline Woodson, who has been an inspiration to me, and she, yes, truly is a genius. But I'm here to speak to the youth. I'm here to really focus on you all. It is a great honor to address you today. Young people who come out in celebration of books are particularly in this climate where books are being banned, I give you a special thank you. You know, I live just across the river in Virginia, where we have a governor who ran his campaign on championing, on banning books and really disguising it as parent empowerment, disguising it as protecting children. We have a presidential candidate now in Florida doing similar things, right? But the reality is that some of our most beloved books centered around the experiences of people of color, around Black history, and around the lives of LGBTQ+ folks. They are being taken off the library shelves, and they're being removed from your curriculum, right? And so where do the students fit in? Where do you fit into all of that, right? Well, my governor, along with many other book banners, say, oh, you know, the young people, they need to be protected from feeling bad about themselves, from feeling bad about this history. Well, we know that's not completely true, right? Because if book banners really, truly cared about how bad young people feel, we'd be talking about gun control, right? Right? We'd be making sure that you all don't have to go to school and periodically have active shooter training, right? We'd be talking about how to best actually protect kids and not have them go into educational environments filled with fear, right? Let's deal with that. No, this war on books is not about how you, young people, really might feel bad or uncomfortable. It's not even truly a war on books. That's my theory, right? It's a war to control what young people think, what you know, and what you believe. The fear that book banners have is about the power of your ideas. Keep that in mind when you think about your own power. It's not the ideas even of people like me who write the books that they're afraid of, or even the teachers who teach them. No, it's about your power, because they know the ideas in your mind can and likely will change the world. The question is, in what way will that world change, right? What will the change be? And they are determined that your ideas look like theirs, so that the world that you create looks like one that matches their values. So they worry, right? They worry. Exposure to books about the nation's history of enslavement could lead to real discussions about policy and reparations, right? Real things. Or that stories that you read about LGBTQ experiences will create citizens that are empowered to fight for the full and equal rights of those citizens, right? They worry that learning about racism might make you anti-racist. Yes, you hold all the power. Adults out there fear even the potential of your ideas. So always remember your power. Remember that the stories and knowledge that you fill your head with today will directly translate into the power you have to shape the future. Remember your power, and really just don't let us adults forget it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Amina. We truly needed to hear it. Remember your power, y'all. It's now time to formally present the Walter Awards and to hear from our winners. But before that, we'd like to offer a little bit of background about the award itself. Oh, didn't I read this already? No, I didn't? Oh, I did not read this. I was thinking about Walter's granddaughter, who I am auntie to. Her name is Kaze, and she's now 3 years old. And I don't know how many of you know Walter's son, Chris Myers. Raise your hand if you've ever met Chris Myers. So for those of you who don't know, Chris Myers is about 6'7", and his wife is about 6'6". And so Kaze at 3 years old is about this tall. And you know, people think, I think she's often in situations where people are like, why isn't that child talking? It's like, she is talking a lot for a 3-year-old, and they think she's 6 or 7. But such a beautiful family, as is our ancestor Walter. The inaugural Walter Awards took place in 2016. That year, our judging committee received just under 50 submissions from publishers. Now in 2023, we received nearly 500 submissions. That's about a 10-fold increase since we began this program, and we even had to expand the number of judges on our committee to accommodate the volume of submissions. We've seen real progress when it comes to the diversity of children's books getting published today, but we wouldn't have gotten to this point without those who came before us. Pioneers like Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, Virginia Hamilton, who was my mentor, and yes, Walter Dean Myers, whose life and work we honor with this award. Let's take a moment to learn more about Walter and the legacy that he has left behind. Just want to take a moment to thank our video team, Buoyant, who played that video. Thank you. I can't believe I get so choked up, but of course I do. This is family. So it was hard saying goodbye to Walter, and he lives on in this moment, so I'm grateful. I'd like to present the Younger Reader Honorees with their awards first, and after that we will hear from the Younger Reader winners. We'll begin with honoree Ibi Savoy. Ibi was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and was raised in New York City. She has written numerous books for young readers, both fiction and nonfiction, and I just got a copy of Ibi's new book, which is fire. It's not out yet. It's out in October? It's out next month. Oh my goodness. I am so excited. She often writes poetry too, as well as journaling and free writing, which she says are important in learning to write and honing your writing skills. Ibi loves to ask kids thought-provoking questions like, what do you think about the iPhone 50? What do you think the iPhone 50 will be like? Because these are questions that Octavia Butler explored in her work, and children today will likely see this technology in y'all's lifetime. Ibi, will you join me at the podium to accept your award? I just told Ibi I didn't mention Trader Joe's, which is gonna both make us tear up, so I won't go into that long story, but I remember it fondly. I don't remember who was in the shopping cart. It wasn't, it was Zooberry. Oh my goodness. I want to acknowledge Christina Subtuvat, who can't be with us, is unable to join us in person, but I hope that Christina is watching. Her book, The Last Map Maker, a fantasy adventure story about a young map maker's assistant. We will accept this award on her behalf. Somebody already accepted it because it's not here. Ghost in the room. I'm now excited to introduce our 2023 Younger Readers winner, Angela Joy, the author of Choosing Brave, How Mamie Till Mobley and Emmett Till Sparked the Civil Rights Movement. Angela was born and raised in Minneapolis and now resides in Southern California. Smart move. Two of her favorite books as a kid were Where the Red Fern Grows and Where the Sidewalk Ends. Music was Angela's first love, and her first career was in music, traveling the world as a backup vocalist. In Choosing Brave, Angela wanted to focus on Emmett Till's mother, Mamie, to shine light on the women in the civil rights movement. She told the Horn Book, "We've left a lot of women behind in the story of the civil rights movement. That's a part of history I want every child to know. It wasn't just the men who led it, it was regular people, regular women who stood up for something and spoke out, and spoke their truth." Let's welcome Angela to the podium.
Okay, sorry.
Wait, we
Where
get
are
the
they?
picture first, and then Angela speaks, right? Okay.
I'm a little bit out of body. Jacqueline Woodson just said my name. Yo. I think I've been so wrapped up in preparing my speech, I forgot about the emotional impact of this award. 7 or 8 years ago, I was feeling like a chocolate chip in a sea of marshmallows at a writers' conference in LA, when 2 authors stepped to the podium and started to talk about a new organization whose aim it was to inspire writers of color to write their stories so that we could all come together and bring greater diversity to the bookshelves of children. New to the craft, shy, pretty insecure, I heard that message as a personal call to action. And it was a call that I intended to answer. So it is really a full circle moment for me to be here in the presence of those authors who founded the We Need Diverse Books organization. Without them, there would not be a me. So specifically Meg Medina, who I didn't realize was gonna be here, is freaking me out, who didn't know me from Adam but sat down and encouraged me. Arthur Levine as well, who I can't look in the eyeballs, who read a manuscript and just said it was good. Linda Sue Park, who is not here, who has taught me through workshops and taught me with her writing to be a better, beautiful, genuine person. I thank her. I thank all of the team, all of the family at We Need Diverse Books for all that you do and all that you are. Also, I'd like to thank my co-conspirator, Janelle Washington. Whose work still takes my breath away. I'd like to thank our third musketeer, our editor, Connie Shu, who has woven our ideas so beautifully together. I'd like to thank the entire Macmillan Roaring Book Press team for their support, their belief in this story that I wasn't sure was going to be told. Of course, I have to thank my agent, Jamie Weiss-Chilton, who believes in me when I do not. My brother, who has been my hype man since infancy, throwing me into situations I didn't want to be in for my own good. My husband, Leon, my mother, Carol, my children, Landon and Olivia, for their sacrifice in allowing me the time away to do this thing. And of course, my sincere gratitude to the judging committee. Thank you for honoring our work and for sharing the love of Mamie's story with the world. In 2017, I started telling people that I was writing Choosing Brave, and I got some side eye. I remember my uncle's reaction in particular. It took him a moment to process. He was like, well, now, wait a minute. So a picture book about Emmett Till's mother? He was skeptical, but he wasn't the only one. Those who know the story of Mamie Till Mobley probably would not imagine her story as a picture book. Wouldn't imagine it in picture book form. There's a healthy slice of America that wouldn't like to see her story at all. It would be so much more convenient to let sleeping dogs lie, to just focus on the here and the now. That was yesterday. The problem is that the hatred that killed Emmett Till is still with us. Mothers are still demanding justice for slain sons and slain daughters. Juries are still proclaiming not guilty in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Innocent lives are still being lost with bubblegum and Skittles in pockets. With 24-hour news, camera phones, and the internet, our youth see this. We can't protect them from it. They hear it, and they feel it. It is up to us as adults to help these young people process the trauma. I'm not an expert. I'm just a mom. But from what I know, one of the best ways to deal with trauma is with a book. So from the start, we knew that Choosing Brave could be a tool for conversation. And we wanted those conversations to take place both in classrooms and in bedrooms. But to do that, we had to achieve a particular balance. We wanted to be illustrative, but not scary. We wanted the book to be age appropriate, but honest, to be factual and yet inspirational. It was a challenge, especially in the beginning, but once we landed on the theme of brave, everything came together pretty quickly. After all, I mean, as a country, we admire bravery. We value bravery. All of our superheroes have the foundation of bravery and who they are. We are living in the land of the, sorry. Not there yet. But we'll get there. So we knew this is a theme that the kids could latch onto. I didn't know how much I would need that theme in the process. We were in the midst of editing Choosing Brave when George Floyd was murdered. My hometown is Minneapolis, and the place he was murdered was not far from the place I attended high school. So it was devastating for me. It was devastating for all of us, but for me, Minneapolis was my safe space. So to see it ravaged with this hatred and to see the death and destruction. My nieces were on the freeway marching when the semi-truck accelerated through the crowd. It was horrifying. I could not believe what I was seeing. And so I was down for the count. There were days that I did not want to get up. But my therapist, my editor, Connie Shu, would say, you know, Angela, we just have to get up and keep trying. We have to keep pushing. We have to be like Mamie and choose brave. We have to dare to believe that we can make it better. She was right. Today, I still invoke the name of Mamie Till Mobley on a regular basis. For lessons unlearned and hatred still living, I call her name. For the strength to sow love in spite of my pain, I pray her name. For sons and daughters who suffer still, I cry her name. For justice, for peace, for Emmett. Mamie's life inspires me to stand a little taller, to hold on a little longer, to speak up a little louder. It is my heart's desire that choosing brave will do the same for all of you. I once had a parent ask, what's the right age to start talking to kids about race and racism? The question took me aback because, Black and brown people don't really get a choice. So I didn't know how to answer at first. But after a moment, I said, you know what? The future leaders of tomorrow's hate groups are being taught as babes in arms. Maybe we should be just as intentional with what we teach our babies. It reminded me of a song that I used to sing as an actor back in the day. It says, you've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made, and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late. Before you are 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be carefully taught. As we read, thank you. As we continue to write and illustrate for the youngest audiences, as we continue to stock and read and teach literature for young people, let us do so with intention, knowing that we have the power to change the world, one child, one book at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. That was lovely. It's so deeply insightful and so beautifully rendered. Thank you. Did you write that song? Oh, wow.
Yes, I did.
You sang the heck out of it, so thank you. And so many jewels in that talk. If you were listening to, you found out who Angela's agent was, you found out who Angela's editor was. So when you start writing those letters, how do you find an agent? How do you find an editor? Listen. And shout out to Arthur Levine. I didn't know Arthur Levine was in the audience. Thanks for all the work you've done to change the world. It's now my pleasure to introduce Janelle Washington, the Young Readers winner and illustrator for Choosing Brave. Janelle is a self-taught paper cut artist from Virginia. She has a BFA in fashion design and worked as a children's wear designer for 12 years. I would love to see what you made. That must have been phenomenal. As an artist, she explores themes of history, identity, family, and feminine beauty in Black culture. In Choosing Brave, Janelle moved from studio art to picture book art, which she described as a challenge at first because she likes to put a lot of detail and background into her art, but didn't want to overpower the text. But out of that challenge came Choosing Brave, which has not only won the Walter Award, but also earned Janelle a 2023 Coretta Scott King John Steptoe New Talent Illustrator Award. Let's welcome Janelle to the podium.
I am so highly honored to be here to receive the Walter Dean Myers Award for Choosing Brave, How Mamie Till Mobley and Emmett Till Sparked the Civil Rights Movement. I am flustered. I'm not going to be able to sing like Angela did, but I hope that my thank you will be able to, I'll cover everyone. Firstly, I do want to thank my creator for his goodness, kindness, and faithfulness toward me. This is not an arena that I ever saw myself being in. Next, I want to thank We Need Diverse Books for creating a platform where readers of all backgrounds can see themselves, and their Walter Awards Judging Committee for selecting Choosing Brave for the Young Readers category. In addition, I would also like to thank Angela Joy for writing such a moving and timely book that demonstrates love and bravery and gives us more information about one of the mothers of the Civil Rights Movement. Also to Connie Shu, the editor at Rowing Book Press, for having an eye for new talent. And thank you to the Macmillan team for their support and really making me feel like family. Thank you to my husband for giving me the space and time to be an artist and to cultivate my art form. To my parents, Walden and Barbara Hunter, for your support and love, especially my mom, a retired teacher, who sowed the seeds of reading in me and the appreciation of the arts. As a child, I loved reading. If I wasn't drawing, I was reading. Reading was an escape where I learned about other cultures in conjunction with mine, traveled to lands I had never heard of, listened to people converse in beautiful accents and languages, time traveled to the past and to the future, and gained knowledge from folktales and parables. I laughed while reading joke books, learned how to draw animals using art books, immersed myself in poetry, cultivated a love for short stories, scared myself silly reading horror, and blushed at books with curse words and romance. My connection to books was so strong that as a teenager and young adult, when I would visit the library, especially the downtown Richmond, Maine library, and walked up and down the musty, dark aisles, running my fingers along the spines of the books, looking for something new to read, I felt as if the right book or books for that day would call out to me, wooing me and pulling me close to choose them. This magical feeling introduced me to new authors, illustrators, and genres not presented to me in my classroom or in my schools. This feeling stays with me even now as an adult. And even though the pull isn't as strong, it's still there. The books I read felt like forever friends and wise teachers, comforting me and educating me by offering me an insight into a world outside of my four walls. By reading Betty DeRaymond's Forbidden Fruit, I learned about love under challenging situations and resilience of the human spirit. In The Time of Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, I was whisked away to the north coast of the Dominican Republic to understand how siblings can find the courage to start a revolution amid a dictatorship. The Best of Simple by Langston Hughes made me laugh and ponder a character's daily observations. Finally, reading Virginia Hamilton's Her Stories, illustrated by the dynamic duo Leo and Diane Dillon, connected me to the stories of my ancestors and showed me warmth and beauty found in Black women through illustration. Each book I have read was important to me, and I want children all over to have the same magical feeling I had as a child. I'm thankful for organizations like We Need Diverse Books that create programs and platforms that elevate our humanity's shared bonds. Doing so helps us celebrate diversity, develop empathy for others, and validates our own life experiences. Through Choosing Brave, I hope young and old readers will connect with Mamie and Emmett's relationship, seeing their bond as a shared human experience. Realizing our connections with each other can give us the strength to be brave in the face of everyday adversity. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that beautiful speech, Janelle. And thanks, Janelle's husband. And thanks, Janelle's mama. And thank you, public libraries everywhere, including right here at the MLK Memorial Library. We so appreciate you. We'll now move on to the presentation of the teen category, starting with the honorees. Sonora Reyes writes fiction full of queer and Latinx characters in a variety of genres. In The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, they wanted to explore what a happy ending could look like at a Catholic school. At one point during the drafting of the book, Sonora's computer crashed and they lost 30,000 words. They almost quit, but out of spite, decided to finish the novel. The first queer Latinx story Sonora ever read was Labyrinth Lost by WNDB board member Zoraida Cordova. I note, this was my student. I'm totally tongue-tying on their name. Zoraida Cordova. Reflecting on that book, they said, "I cried happy tears when I realized Alex was bisexual. I hope to provide that happy moment to others with my writing as well." Sonora, will you please join me at the podium? Zoraida is the pronunciation of Zoraida's name. I'd like to now acknowledge our next teen category honoree, Sabah Tahir. Sabah grew up in the Mojave Desert, where she spent her time devouring fantasy novels, listening to indie rock, and playing the guitar and piano badly. Her words. Sabah's first job was answering the phones at her family's motel, and her dream job is professional ice cream taster. About her book, All My Rage, she has said, "It's a story demanding to be told, a love letter to the desert and rock music and tiny motels and the kinds of friendships that save your life." Sabah, will you join me at the podium? It is my pleasure now to introduce the winners of the, hold on a second, okay. I'm right where I need to be. It's my pleasure to now introduce the winners of the 2023 Walter Award in the teen category. Andrea L. Roberts and Jeff Edwards. Jeff, unfortunately, couldn't be with us today, but we are happy to accept his award on his behalf. Andrea Rogers grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Her award-winning book, Man-Made Monsters, is made up of 18 interconnected horror stories. It is important for Andrea to portray horror through a Native lens because Native people have so often been stereotyped in horror stories. She told the Horn Book that, "I wanted to tell stories where we were the final people, where we do survive." Before they collaborated on Man-Made Monsters, Andrea was already a fan of Jeff Edwards' art after first seeing his work in the Spider Gallery in Oklahoma. Let's welcome Andrea to the podium.
Okay, hi. I'm so nervous. I have it two places. I have it on my iPad, and then I also have it on my phone. And so please bear with me, because, I struggle. So thank you so much. Actually, I met Jacqueline at Quelly, and so it's been a minute, but, and she signed a book for one of my students that I got Brown Girl Dreaming, and it was such a thrill to see her there. Definitely, I've been inspired by a lot of women. and I've also had the gift of help by a lot of women, especially women of color and Native writers, and I wouldn't be here without them. So. Osio Nagada Wado, Andrea L. Rogers Dawadoa, G. Chalagi. Hello, everyone. Thank you. They call me Andrea Rogers, and I'm Cherokee. To say that standing here in front of you accepting an award named after Walter Dean Myers is an honor is an understatement. I can't say that I ever believed anything like this would happen. and I am in such excellent company. There's not a bad book here. I've wanted to be a writer since the 2nd grade, but I got serious about writing books for children because I had children who were faced with the same lack of story by us and about us that I had been faced with 25 years earlier. In 2014, Walter Dean Myers wrote an essay asking, where are the people of color in children's books? And many of us are still missing. And if you aren't on the bookshelves that kids have access to, you don't exist. This was made clear to me every time my children told their classmates they were Cherokee and they were told, you can't be Indian, all the Indians are dead. Imagine our surprise. So, this is not a plot twist in the Sixth Sense. Standing here accepting this award, I'm very much alive. You are not seeing dead people. As are 450,000 enrolled members of the Cherokee Nation. But those kids were only repeating what they had learned from the world, from books, from movies, from parents, and teachers who probably believed it as well. In another essay, Myers wrote, once I begin to read, I begin to exist. I am what I read, all the books, all the papers, all the stories. I think that's what I've always been. Writing is just an extension of my reading life. For me, reading provided an escape, but writing provided me a way to say, we are here. We are still here. Indian removal, the removal of Native people from their native lands, did not result in our extinction. And in this way, I get to live. I wrote myself into existence. I write, therefore I am. In his book, Just Right, Walter Dean Myers told young writers, it's a gift to be able to go outside of our own limited worlds in this way. That gift was given to me. Reading probably saved my life. In some ways, I mean that figuratively, because the ideas I found in books helped me imagine a life I wanted to live. The first book I wrote was about the Trail of Tears, a book about my ancestors using the democratic process and the courts to fight to keep land that was legally and historically theirs, only to be forced from their homes into concentration camps and then marched 1,000 miles out of the United States to Indian Territory. But that's not where my tribe's story ends, or mine, or my children's. There are Cherokees in the future. In Walter Dean Myers' novel, Lockdown, a character says, everything in life is made up. You make up that you are happy, you make up that you're sad, you make up that you're in love. If you don't make up your own life, who's going to make it up for you? It's bad enough when you die and everybody can make up their own stories about you. This book almost didn't exist. I wrote the first story 21 years ago, and I was about to put the entire collection away after a lot of rejections when a woman named Laura Pegram introduced me to an editor named Nick Thomas at Levine Querido. Finally, someone saw me. I reached out, thank you. I reached out to Cherokee artist, graphic designer Jeff Edwards many times. And I wanted him to illustrate it, and what he created is stunning, and it's very Cherokee. Jeff's devotion to the Cherokee language, preserving our language and helping it grow was part of the reason that I knew he was the perfect person for this. How do you thank people for finally seeing you? How do I endeavor to deserve these blessings? There's a debt to the ancestors and the writers who paved the way for a book about a Cherokee past, present, and future, and all those things are connected. Everything in life is made up. Everything in life is made up. As writers and teachers and parents, we can give young people the tools to make the world a better place. Children can imagine new worlds, write new stories, reckon with the past in order to manifest a better future. In Walter Dean Myers' Carmen, he wrote, we all think we're different, but when it comes around, we end up needing the same things. Somebody to love us, somebody to respect us. Once more, thank you to the Walter Committee for loving and respecting man-made monsters. Wado, Andrea L. Rogers, Dawadoa, G. Shalagi.
Andrea. That was so lovely. What stands out for me, among many things, is you saying your name and just showing us the importance of our place here in the world. Say your names every day and say them loud. It's a gift to the world that you're here. It's a gift to the world that you're here and your writing's here. Thank you. Y'all matter, your power matters, your stories matter. And with that in mind, I want to thank everyone for joining us today at the Walter Awards 2023. It's been such an inspiring, an emotional morning, and beautiful morning. I'm so grateful to be in the room with all of you. Many thanks to our 2023 winners and honorees, the judging committee, Politics and Prose, BookBub, and NetGalley. And again, thank you all for live streaming the event and being here with us virtually. The Walter Awards are now concluding, but you're welcome to stay to purchase books and to get them signed. Please bear with us as we set up the stage for the signing, and please stay seated for the time being if you're planning to stay to get a book signed. Y'all don't have to stay seated if you're leaving. When we are ready, we will first call down the school groups one by one so that they can get their book signed and wrap up and head back to class. I know y'all are not in a hurry to do that, but once the last group is through the line, we'll open the signing row by row. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for being a part of the 2023 Walter Awards. Stay safe.